All right, come on in. Let's get comfy. Let's get sorted in. Oh, I'm gonna have to sort this delay out. Give me just a moment. Let's get sorted. There we go. Okay, technology. Okay, so we're all streaming on our YouTube channel as well for people that are there. So whatever is comfortable for you on the screen right now, there's no requirements. This is your time. So I am then going to try to stop this screen share again, if it's going to let me. And we will go ahead and get started. So let's hear. All right. So, do you see the screen there okay? Liz, you see that there? Okay, let's see. There you are.
Your screen.
Yeah, you see
Yeah.
yeah, good. Monthly reflection and planning. Love it, love it. Okay. Well, welcome. I will pay attention to those who might be coming in the Zoom room. For those of you on YouTube, we're just settling, getting comfy here. This time is for us. This is a simple time. We ended March. We're now a couple of days into April. This is a very, very powerful and important time. The reason here is because this is often overlooked, and it's overlooked until we are in. Go ahead and click record over here too. It's usually overlooked until we're at the new year. We go, oh no, what do I want for the whole year? Instead of going, what do I want for the next 30 days? What am I trying to create in this short sprint, this short time? What have I already learned? And so we're creating this space and this time for that. It's a very, very special time. I think I'm going to start creating a new holiday. But this, because Q2, I just find to be so important in business. It really is a time for us to bloom. It is spring in business, and it's where we as entrepreneurs really are hitting for, I don't want to say should, but we're hitting for momentum. We're stepping into a place of change and transformation. And this part in our journey each year really does give us some insight and some KPIs into where we're going to head by the end of the year. It gives us moment to really pause, reflect, pivot, and end powerfully. And so I have been really kind of harping on this Q2 thing, but it is really an amazing time. So I'm glad that you're here. Those of you with us, listening, paying attention. This is your space. So you're going to answer questions. We're going to go through about 30, close to 40 questions, right? We have an hour, we have close to 40 questions. Every question you have about a minute to answer. Go with your gut. Don't overthink it. That's why this is a monthly thing. If you want to explore it more later, do that, but it's swift and we're just going to get some clarity and get moving. So you see the screen okay. If you got the email sent you a document. If you don't have that document, don't even worry about it, because all that matters is that you answer the questions, you have somewhere for it to be, and the rest of the space is for you. Like I said, this is for you. There's other sessions where we want you on camera, we want you in here. Right now, I want you comfortable, get water, whatever you need. I'll eventually transition to my calmer yoga voice and we'll get going. So let's see. I might even have some slides here that say stuff, but I didn't do that. So where you're coming from, you could share that. Why not? Share where you're coming from and what business you have if you want. But as I explained, this is how it works. Relax, prepare to write. We'll go through the questions. You have 1 minute to answer. I was checking the slides here to my right because I was just freestyling it here. That's me, by the way. I'm Tanya MFK. If it's your first time connecting with me, then hello. My name is Tanya Marie Figueres-Kreisinger, which is way too hard to say. So Tanya MFK, you can learn all about me, but today's not the day. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's go back to the past. March. That's it, right? Let's take an intentional breath and look at it. Jeanette, Q2 planning we do that session at the end of March. So this is looking at getting our lessons from March and planning out for April. So we shared some details of what you can do to prepare for Q2 planning in the group if you're there. But today, this is where we'll go through monthly, but it'll still have some good insights. And then I can give you some other resources if you want to get more detailed into the to Q2 afterwards. Okay, so I hope that helps. But first, we're going to look back at March. We're going to grab our lessons. We're going to make sure that we close out that month, and then we're going to move into what we're creating for April. All right, so we can look at the micro vision as well as you may or may not have your goals for the whole quarter. This is where we can start to look at what those micro movements might be just for April. So we can look at a little bit of that kind of planning, but that helps because now I know where you're at. So the first thing we want to do, it's very important as entrepreneurs for us to look back and recognize where we've been. And so I want you to look back and think just for a minute about March and list every significant thing that happened last month. Doesn't have to be achievements, doesn't have to be wins. It can be just how the month went. Just give yourself a quick reminder of what all happened in March. Time goes fast. We can forget. Just a little timer for that. Might remember an event you went to, conversation you had. The day renovations finished in your home. All right, wrapping up the seconds there. Might have had a wild March. We just got started, Kelly. We listed every significant thing that happened in March. So we're looking back to the past first. So our second one here is, what was your biggest personal milestone or professional accomplishment just for March? So professional milestone or personal milestone or professional accomplishment. So it might be that client that you landed, or it might be you drank more water than you normally do. You hit that push-up challenge, whatever it might be. If you were with us in the group, you did your movement snacks all week. Be anything. Maybe you just didn't badmouth anyone in traffic, right? Couple more seconds. All right. So next question here. What did you do exceptionally well in March? So giving yourself that moment to look back and go, what did I do really well in March? Go with whatever comes to you. Don't qualify it. We know reflection's beneficial, but we rarely carve out the time to do it. Too often we find hindsight when we're already bruised and battered and go, oh, so we're going to find it now. Moving on to our next one here. So we're still in March, right? What was your most valuable lesson learned from March? If you can look back on March, you're gonna look back on March. What was your most valuable lesson that you can pull from that month? There was something there. Maybe something went exceptionally well, and you go, you know what? I learned that I can do this. Or if I do it this way, it really works. Maybe the opposite. Whoa, let's not do it that way again. But there was something that March gave you. We just have a minute for each question there. So next one. What was your most memorable day and why? It's just 31 days, right? Just 31 days. What stands out? Why does it stand out? Couple more seconds. All right. So something that happened in March, something you did in March that you just absolutely love doing. It's going to give us about 30 seconds here. Something in March you did that you're like, yeah, loved that. We had some clients share that they just caught up with an old friend. Like, man, that was really good. Some hobbies. All right. So before we move on to creating more things for the month ahead, I'd love for you to ask yourself, are there ways that I can have more experiences like that? Remember, this is about balanced, balanced joy. Yes, we're looking for big to hit big goals, big ambitions. But if we're wishing and not truly infusing these things into our life intentionally, we will miss out. You know, 40 seconds to think about this. Okay. No pressure. All right. We'll be wrapping up March soon. Looking up at March, what was the most challenging part of the month? And how did you face it? Thinking back, February and leap day just finished. You stepped into March. There was what? St. Patrick's Day, obviously my birthday, and all of those things that went on. What was the most challenging part? And how did you face it? Okay. Looking back on March, what would you have done differently and why? What would you have done differently and why? About 20 seconds left. There we go. Little alarm I have going on. How are you different now here? We're already at the beginning of April than you were at the beginning of March. A little esoteric, I know. Think about it. How are you different than you were just 30 days ago? Okay. Is there an area when you look back on March that you feel you made your biggest improvements? Say like a 30-second thought here. Improvements. The reflection. Biggest improvement. And we talked before about things you might have nailed. This just might be something you've gotten better at, right? I haven't quite got to the nailing it yet. In what areas would you like to see more improvements? So this is a little bit of clarity that we get before we start piling on our goals for the next month. So we'll give 30 seconds here. Don't want long improvement lists. Okay. What areas would you like to see more improvement in? You got a movement snack, Liz. I saw that. Makes me want to stretch. Good stuff. Okay. Choose. So now we're going to come to the end of this part. So we're going to choose a theme or emotion that sums up the past month for you. So it's a really wonderful part of the reflective practice if you do this often. So just kind of summarize March with a name. Maybe it was the wild month. Maybe it was the month of, maybe you had a friend that was visiting and you're like, it's the month of Amy, whatever that might mean. And let's just kind of seal it up. And if you do them every month, you can look back and have quite an interesting description for your year. I'll do 5 seconds here. Okay, awesome. So we've done some reflection. We looked back on kind of the general sense of like, where were we in March? What happened? What went well? What went wild? All of those things. Beautiful. This is a wonderful thing. There's some lessons there, some great things to take. So now what I want to do is before we close out March completely, we're going to take a couple of questions to look at our goals. What were we trying to accomplish? What is still left? That way we're super clear on what we're either ditching or taking with us into April, right? So that's our next steps. So we can do a little movement snack like Liz did, or a little shake a shake. We got, we're 20 minutes in, whatever that means for you. I'm going to pour some tea. We're just going to review the goals and then we'll have another little stretch snack after that. So let's get going. So again, looking back on March, what goals or passions were you pursuing that month? So just this little reminder for you. So 1 minute, what goals or passions were you pursuing in March? Okay. What did you do in the last month to achieve those goals? So you had those goals, you had those ideas, those passions. What were the actual actions that you took? So I just want you to kind of revisit that. Give you a minute. All right. So this is the one that always gets you. How was the progress? So we looked at what we were trying to do. We looked at the actions we took. This is your quick summary of, well, how did that go? Okay. 1 minute, clarify how that went. And we got a little idea on how our progress was and what that was looking like. What still needs to be done to achieve those goals? So again, before we step out of March, are there things still hanging on, still left behind that we need to work on for those goals? Too often we just tack new goals on top of existing goals and wonder why stuff doesn't get done. Let's take a little inventory there. Couple more seconds. All right. Is there anything you wanted to do, had planned to do, but didn't do it all last month? Just gonna give 30 seconds here. Just a quick check-in, right? We're just gathering all those little things, any loose ends before we finally wrap it out. Okay. I'm gonna let you have that list too long there. Is there anything that you learned from falling short of any of those goals? So whatever you had left in March, things that were missed the mark, didn't get completed, never got touched. What can we learn? So give us, I'll give a little minute there. What can we learn from that? Yeah, it's a lot of reflective. That's the whole thing. Lots of reflective stuff. There's always these questions that people tell us that we should ask ourselves. We often don't go away and ask ourselves. We don't. We're like, that's a really good question, but we don't do it. And that's what this is for. This whole thing started to make me do it. So I'd have accountability. All right. What can you improve for next month to meet this goal and plan? Is there anything you need to improve so this doesn't happen again? So let's give a quick 30 seconds for us to confirm that lesson. We're more than halfway through already. Awesome. Okay, so let's put a big bow on March. March was great. There were lessons, there were insights, things happened, things didn't happen. Some things might be coming with us, some things we might be leaving over there. And we're about to step into planning for April, right? Getting clear on what we're trying to do. Now remember, so what we want to do though before that is we want to make sure that we're still on par for the big picture. So just a couple of quick questions to do a little bit of what I call a gut check and just make sure that this is what we're really doing this all for. Like, is this still what I want? Whatever that might mean for you. So the first question here is overall. Yes, you might be trying to build your website, you're trying to get in contact with so and so. Got it. Overall, what are you trying to achieve? Whatever comes out right now, go with that. Okay, so 1 minute. Overall, what are you trying to achieve? Before we get into what we're creating for the next 30 days, let's make sure we remember why we keep doing it all. Might be a lot of words here. It might be one word. Whatever comes out. What is this all really for? What are we trying to achieve? The next gut check here. Looking at where you are now, are you still trying to achieve that? No right or wrong answer here. Just a quick check. Are you still trying to achieve this? Absolutely. Yes. No way. On second thought, whatever that might look like. All right. Do your goals. Okay, you just look back at what you were trying to do in March. We're about to set some goals for April. Do they still align? Those things that you've been working on with who you are right now. So again, that might just be a very quick answer for you. I'm going to give just that 10 seconds here. They align with who you are now. I had a client once who had on her list to speak on stages. And we were doing all this other stuff in our business. And as we got kind of back to that place, she said, I don't think I actually want to do that. It just was that what everyone said, you could do this, you could go do that. She's like, and I just said, yeah, of course, that's what I do. But it wasn't until she really sat and thought, like, I don't want to speak on stages. Actually, it's not my thing. Like, go figure. And so just recognize that sometimes this can happen where we're in this space and we adopt other people's goals. We adopt other things. So this is just a quick gut check. Make sure, is this all you? Are we still, is this who you are? And that's it. That was the gut check. So now we are diving into April. Okay. Like I said, we're more than halfway done. We're going to be good. We might be on time even. Look at that. So now we're going to step into April. Okay. Even though we're 4 days in, that's fine. You can go 4 days extra after. What are you looking forward to achieving this month? 1 minute. April. Remember, this is just April. It's the 4th. April ends on the 30th. What do you look forward to achieving this month? All right. What are your 1 to 3 goals for this month? Your top 1 to 3 goals for April. Some of you might just have 1. Some of you might have 20. I want to know what your 1 to 3 are. And even if you go, they're all important times. That's totally fine. What are the top 3 that will matter the most? Move the needle, make the boat go faster. Okay. Do the goals that you just wrote down, do they align with your long-term goals? That might be your year goals, it might be your 2024 goals, it might be the bigger picture goals. Do these goals align with your long-term goals? So this is just another way to check in because you're starting to step into this micro focus of April. You got 3.5 or 4 weeks of making something powerful happen. Do these goals, the goals that you just wrote down, actually align with the bigger picture? It's just something you can answer yes or no to yourself. If there's a question mark, then that's something to come back and revisit. Okay. What is my true motivation for these goals? So there is a link. If you haven't downloaded the worksheet, that's fine, but there is a link on that worksheet that links to another worksheet. All of these will be in the community portal soon. But on this question, it actually has a link to the 7 levels of why. You're not going to be able to do that all here, but we'll take a minute in just a moment to try it out for a minute. But what you're going to do is you're going to look at the goal that you have, right? So let's just play with website. I'm going to make my website in April. Awesome. Why is that important to you? Well, because I need my website to make sales. Why are those sales important to you? Because with sales, I'm going to be able to pay my bills. Why is that important to you? And we're going to do that 7 times until we get to the true root of why that stinking website matters so much. Okay. Because when push comes to shove, and it will, and it does in this entrepreneurial journey, it's beautiful. There's high highs, but there can be tough lows. Then this is the kind of thing that you need to sit on and stand on when you're trying to push through to this goal in the next 30 days. So I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm going to have you take one of those goals, find a nearby teenager, and then just have them go, why? Every time you give an answer, they're going to go, why? Okay, why is that important to you? So try it, pick one of your goals and try it for a minute. All right. Not how sure how far you got, but it's a very, very powerful exercise to see. Sometimes it goes haywire, like, whoa, I didn't know it was about this. Very interesting. So very powerful stuff to do. I think we have a little worksheet if you need help with that. So what actions, now you just looked at your main goals for April. What actions actually need to be taken to reach those goals? Okay, let's just get real nitty gritty here. What do you actually need to do to make those things happen? 1 minute now. All right. I know it's just a minute. It's tough. So before we go into the roadblocks real quick, since I know Jeanette, you were looking at the Q2 planning, which we do a little more granular, but for those of you who are looking at a little more granular planning right now, whatever you wrote down for the actions that you need to take to reach those goals, you're going to actually have to break it further down to go, what's the process of those actions? So I'm going to give a really easy example here is that, especially when you're looking at monthly planning, quarterly planning, there's going to be all the little stuff, right? There will always be there. This is why we got to narrow down to what the big stuff is. So we recognize when to put blinders on. So once we decide what that thing is, then we go, what is the strategy, right? What are the actions I need to take to make that happen? That's what we just did. And we go, great. So let's say the goal is 5 new clients. Awesome. 5 new clients is a goal. What actions need to be taken? Well, I need to have more sales calls. Okay. Well, are you 100% closer? So if you get 5 calls, you're going to get problem. Oh, maybe not. I mean, if you are, come teach some lessons to us. But if not, then we go, how many people do I need? Well, if I have 15 calls, then I will be good. So my strategy now, right? The action is to have 15 calls so I can get the 5. Awesome. What's the process of getting those 15 calls? That's the nitty-gritty work. That's what you have to figure out, plan, and process for your actual daily work. The bigger goal and all that stuff is great. That's the true north, but that's the piece. So if you want something further, after number 28 here, what actions need to be taken, you need to break those down into their processes. And then that process needs to be scheduled. The goal doesn't get scheduled, the process gets scheduled. So there's a little insight right there. All right. So as we're moving on, there's only 35 questions, so we don't have too much left here. Is what are potential roadblocks to meeting these goals? 99% of the time, we know what will hold us back. We know our downfalls, we know what's potentially out there, who could be difficult, whatever that is. So for this 1 minute, I'm going to ask you to catastrophize for just a moment and go, what could set me back from these things that I wrote down for April? Just for April, just those specific things. And to wrap that up. So wrap all the worries and bad news up. Okay, so we go, look, this is what could happen. Maybe someone says no to the proposal, maybe this doesn't get done, maybe I get, we have a client who gets bad migraines, maybe you have a couple and that sends you back. The thing here is not about worrying, but it's about facing reality, right? Too often plans are met with this idea that as long as you're able to hold the universe in place, your plan's going to go according perfect. I've yet to figure out how to hold the universe in place. So your plans are going to somewhat come together, right? That what we're doing today. And I love that. And that's what our intention is. But let's also have the idea of how are we going to deal with it? What is our other plan if it doesn't go the way that we want? How are we going to react? How is our mindset going to be if it doesn't? How can I pivot? We can lose time, we can save time, we'll lose time, but we can save time with the pity parties and the disappointments. And I'm not saying not have feelings, but we can really learn to move on if we actually look and face it ahead of time, because our mind does not know the difference between real or imagined. So if we can look at a situation and imagine what we would do instead, by the time the actual reality comes, our brain will go, we've done this before. We know what to do. We know how to react. We know how to process this. So it's going to be a very powerful, helpful tool as you're moving along, is to go, what are some potential roadblocks? And what is my plan to avoid these roadblocks? All right, so look, this is what could happen. So my favorite example, Liz Rowley, you've been hearing me say this for years, right? Is you're trying to avoid cake, right? So my goal is to avoid cake. What are my roadblocks might make me eat cake? Well, I got Sally's birthday coming up. That might happen. I got the break room cake. I'm a cake maker, right? Whatever those things might be could really give you some hard time to go, that's my roadblocks. And let's just be honest. Those are some things if I make one of these certain, man, I'm going to eat one. Fine. So what's your action plan to avoid these? It might be not going to Sally's party. That might be one option. It might be too extreme. Maybe you bring your own dessert to Sally's party. Maybe you avoid the break room. What are the things that you can do? Now, again, if you really want to dive into this and you're struggling in some certain areas, you're kind of, you don't want to react the wrong way or let it throw you off, we do have a worksheet for you to look into this a little more in depth. So actually, you can go ahead and just comment in the community, actually, if that's of interest to you, and I'll make sure we add it to the worksheet section. But I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to give you that minute to start to go, well, what is there anything I can do to avoid these roadblocks? You know, what if the client doesn't show up? What can I do to make it easier for them to show up? Do I mail them a map? Do I handcuff them to the chair? Whatever it might be. About 10 more seconds here for your plan. I got one more, another plan to go. Let's see. Okay. So we had a plan, we did our best. It happened anyway. I ate the cake. I ate the darn cake. So what's my action plan if it happens anyway? What if they don't show up? What if the deal doesn't go through? Whatever it might be. It might be a plan of, like you said, your reaction. It might be a plan of action. It might be a plan of emotion. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to give you that minute to think about it. Okay. Oh, timer's yelling at me. All right. We're wrapping up this final stretch here, everyone. Okay. So 32, what areas of my environment need to be set up or changed in order to achieve these goals? So cake situation, it might be removing cake items, right? Removing the cake delivery off a speed dial. My friend who only comes to bring cake, maybe I have to talk to her for a moment, right? Whatever that might be. So your environment might be your very literal environment. Like, is your desk a mess? Maybe you're trying to get to the gym and you go, you know what? I need to set up my gym bag regularly. Environment can be people. Environment can be lots of different things. There is a worksheet. Of course, it's a worksheet. There's a worksheet if you need a setting environment to win worksheet. This actually helps you go through a lot of different areas of your life to see what might need to be changed or set up. Maybe there's tools you're missing or don't have ready, but this is something you want to think about. So I'm going to be quiet and I'm just going to give you a little 30 seconds here because I want to make sure we get us out on time. But what do you need to set up, prepare, maybe even do differently to achieve these goals, just the goals for April? We're not the whole life. It's not New Year's resolutions. Okay, it's just April. All right. So looking at our environment. So this is the question I love to end with here. It's our wrap up really of these last couple questions, but we look at this grandiose version of ourselves and who we're trying to become, and every year, new me, yada yada. Okay. I love to come to the micro steps, right? The small moments. And this is part of the beauty of this monthly reflection is that while you have this maybe, this one person you are, but every month we can show up differently. Every month we're in different modes and have different focuses. There might be the hibernator you, and there might be the go-getter ambitious you, right? So I want you to answer the question is who do you want to be in April? Who is April Kelly? Who is April Liz? Who is April Jeanette? She was a character in a movie. Who's that character? What version of you is the one you need most in April? Had that deep question. Just a couple of quick things to add into it. Now that you've really thought about who that person is, how does that person behave? How does the April version of you that you need right now, how do they behave in April? And the last question also is, what kind of actions does that person take? Right? How does that person behave? And what kind of actions do they take? Do they get up early? Do they drink enough water? Or maybe they let it go. They stop obsessing over all the things and they just run with it. Right? There's no virtue thing here like, oh, you got to get up early. Like, we all need to be different things at different times. The organized me has to learn to let go when I need momentum, right? I go, look, it's got to just be it. So the person that you need in April, all you're doing right now is writing down how do they behave and what are some of their actions. Do they knock stuff out on Monday? They start taking Mondays off. It's the opposite. Okay. All right. And there we are. So we've done the reflection. We did the clarity. We pulled the lessons. We got clear on what we're trying to do in April, how we're trying to show up, and how it really comes together. Okay. We do more detailed, really detailed scheduling in our strategic schedulers lab. I think our next one is May 2nd, but that's where we actually get into your calendar. We start scheduling out hours. It gets wild. But that is something that you can start to do now. So as you've done those things today, they're beautiful clarity, but they're not quite plans yet. They're not quite plans until they get on a calendar. Right now, there's some days, and someday doesn't exist, right? It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's no someday, right? So if it's going to happen, we need to get it onto a calendar. And your best way of doing that, and I'm going to just give it a very quick, overview here, is to block out those routines that you have. I don't care if your routine looks like Tony Robbins or it looks like a teenager, right? We all have a routine. We get up, we typically or hopefully are not waking up at our computer, right? That's a different issue we need to discuss if that's happening. And so whatever that morning routine is, if it's wake up and scroll, I don't care. It's not what it's about right now. We can work on other things later, but you block that out like it's an appointment. Hey, from 8 to 9, I'm scrolling. All right. From from 8 to 9 at night. I'm also scrolling, whatever those things that are taken up. I eat dinner at this time. I have to drive at this time. And then I want you to look at the real thing, like the actual specific date things going on. You have a doctor's appointment next week, whatever that might be. And I want you, ideally for all of April, to block those things out as if they're appointments. This is when I'm doing that because it's real time that's taken up. When you do that, when you block out those obligations and the have tos for the month, again, this is not your goals. These are the things that like you got to go to work or you got to go to that meeting, things that are non-negotiable. That was what gets blocked out first because the space in between is actually the time you have to do those goals that you do. That's where it is. And if you don't like the way it looks, then that's where you change it. Because too often what happens is people just start arbitrarily throwing tasks onto days and go, this is when I'll do it. But it's not built into the reality of their life and the reality of their hours. And so we're not here, and I'm never going to ask anyone to try to control the universe. And you ain't going to do it. So make it easier on yourself and schedule with reality instead of scheduling for this superhuman who's going to hold the universe intact, okay? And make sure nothing changes their plans. So that is my big, kind of sign off for you to do that, to set those goals, make them clear, give them a time, give them a date, identify if there's anything you need to uncommit to. As you've looked at all these things you want to do, is there stuff that needs to go? Is there something that says, thank you, but not this month? Thank you, but not now. Thank you, but not ever, whatever that is, but to go, it's just not going to help my boat go faster this month. And so look at it. Is it important? Do you have time left for your goals? One of the things that I love playing with, if you're really struggling with like, oh, I don't know, because I want both, is to say it in the way of picking so-and-so up from the airport is more important than writing my emails. And see if that sits with you, right? That was just an example of if you're trying to make a decision, say that this thing is more important than the other thing you might be going up, and just let that gut feeling go, ooh, I don't like the way that sounds. Or like, yeah, I'm okay with that. That's usually a real good one. If you're really struggling, you're like, oh, I can't logically figure it out. Let your gut tell you. Your gut will go, I don't like the way that sounds. And then lastly, try to see yourself working on the goals. Visualization is a very real, powerful thing that our brain does. Plenty of documented science about the benefits of this. But too often what's taught is to visualize the win. We visualize ourselves at the beach. We visualize ourselves with the new car, but we don't visualize ourselves getting to the gym, doing the hard work, writing the darn emails, right? Whatever that might be, that's what I need you to work on visualizing this month. Those goals that you looked at, I don't want you to picture the end result. I want you to picture the process. I got to reach out to those 10 people. I got to reach out. Okay, I'm going to have those calls. I'm rebooking it. That's the part I want you to see yourself doing. Make it real, make your brain know that you're serious, and help you confirm these actions. All right. So those are the things. Make sure you're truly committed. I'm committed to this. It's not an option. It's non-negotiable. This is happening. And I think I'm on time. Yay, thank you. Look at that. Woo. So thank you so much for being here. Kelly, so lovely for seeing your lovely face. And I just the rest of us were off camera. But that's it. That's it for the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Got some great insights. Share in the community. And with that, if you'd like, you can unmute and say goodbye. If anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer those as well. But Liz, anything you'd like to say? Just goodbye? All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Great seeing y'all.